You're watching Animated, where I animate Reddit stories. Well, I will one day. Dressed inappropriately for a job I don't have. Last weekend, it was very warm for this part of the country. I was wearing a tank top and some jean shorts, so I had a lot of skin showing. Nothing indecent though, just bare arms and legs, and I might have had some cleavage showing. My husband and I were going to have a barbecue for some friends of his, so I went down to the grocery store to pick up a few final items. While I was looking at beans trying to decide how much we need, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turn around and I come face to face with an older lady who was definitely overdressed for the weather. I politely ask, "May I help you?" And she replies, "I don't think you're dressed appropriately for this job." I was confused and so replied, "Well, yes, but I'm not at my job right now. I work in a hospital as a lab technician." She scoffed and said, "Well, we'll see what Dave has to say about this." Dave is apparently the manager and a friend of hers. So she races off to find him, and I'm just looking at beans, still trying to figure out how much we need. Just as I put a couple cans into my basket, the lady comes down the aisle with who I assume is Dave, wearing a manager type apron. She's pointing at me saying, "Do you let your employees wear things like this? It's shameful." Dave looks at me, starts to look at me like he knows me, then he shakes his head and tells the lady she doesn't work here. The lady looks at me and tells Dave, "Of course she works here. I've been seeing her stocking shelves and working at the register. It's absolutely shameful that you allow her to wear that on the floor." Dave looks at me, then as if a light bulb went off in his head, takes his walkie-talkie and calls for someone named Linda to report to whatever aisle we're on. The lady is still berating him for what I'm wearing when Linda comes into the aisle. I was shocked. She looked exactly like me when I was back in high school. It was like looking 10 years back in time, and I'm sure she got a glimpse of what she would look like 10 years from now. Linda walks up to us, asking what's up, and the lady quietly says, "My mistake," and starts to walk back down the aisle. But she has to get a last jab. So she turns around and tells me, "Do you actually go in public like that? That's just wrong. Tempting men with your nearly naked body." I'm married, by the way. The only man I have to tempt is my husband, and that's not hard to do. Dave had me and Linda pose together for a picture. He was also astonished at how close we looked to each other. Boyfriend and I mistaken for Walmart workers while discussing energy drinks. My boyfriend and I were finishing up our last Walmart run before we leave for a small vacation tomorrow. We had come back from the front to grab a 4-pack of Rockstars that he had forgotten. While there, I decided I should find a kind I might like because it's a 4.5 hour drive each way and I'm navigating, so I want to stay awake and alert. I don't drink energy drinks normally, so we were discussing a few different flavors when an older man approached us and put one hand on my cart and the other one on my boyfriend's. He looked directly at my boyfriend and the conversation went as follows. "Do you guys have any seltzers?" Me and my boyfriend totally confused. "What? Seltzers. Do you have them? Where are they?" "What are you talking about?" Boyfriend at the same time as me. "I'm not really sure. I've never had any." I'm looking back and forth between the man and my boyfriend. The man stutters for a moment and looks confused. "Well, you work here, so you should know." Boyfriend, "What? No, I don't." He looks down at his black pants, gray collared shirt, and a cart full of food. I also look down at this point at my own clothes to make sure I'm not wearing blue. I'm wearing black pants and a very light teal shirt. We don't look anything like employees. He didn't laugh or apologize or say anything at all, which I found kind of strange. He just removed his hands from our carts, finally, and walked away down the aisle to ask another person. I should have looked to see if it was an actual employee or not, but boyfriend and I were just looking at each other and busted out laughing. We discussed on the way home why we think he thought we were workers despite having totally different clothes from workers and each having a cart with food and other stuff in it. Firstly, my boyfriend was wearing clothes he wears to work. He looks professional, like business casual. And he also just trimmed up his beard last night. He was looking sharp. Another thing is we were discussing the energy drinks. Boyfriend had asked if I wanted to get two, so I have one on the way home also. I questioned if I decided I didn't like the first one, if he would drink the other one. He said he would bring it to work. And that was right before the man approached us. Maybe he heard bring it to work and he assumed that where we were currently standing was his work. Either way, it was so funny, and I'm glad I finally have a good one to post here. Followed this sub for years and glad to finally add to it. I figured since you work in the area, you know where it is. My office for work is half a mile from TJ Maxx, and I had a lot of rewards to use up before they expire, so during my lunch break, I did some relax shopping. I was there not even 5 minutes, and a lady came up to me when I was looking at face lotions and asked, "Excuse me, do you know where the lip liner is?" I just stood up and lightly pointed and mentioned, "It's usually on the aisle right there next to this one." She looked at me and said, "Oh, I figure since you work in the area, you know where it is." First off, with a which way to say something to an employee or not, I immediately showed her my badge and responded to, "I don't work here." She said, "Oh," and with a still annoyed look on her face, she just went to the other aisle. Her words weren't so much mean, but more so her tone demeaning, sort of in a, "You work in this area, you should work on not being so lazy and learn your job." I had a roll on basket with me, my cardigan with my company name, and my purse. I had my work badge on, but anyone who have taken 2 seconds to think would have observed I'm shopping too. I'm hoping her saying her mildly passive aggressive comment to me prevented her from finding an actual employee. I hope her lip liner doesn't match her lipstick, but doesn't realize till she's home later and already put it on. Fingers crossed. Mild karma for a mild Karen comment. I don't work at the gym and I'm not going to fix the AC. I went to my gym in work clothes. I was wearing dark blue trousers with a white polo shirt with our company logo on. On reflection, is quite similar to the gym staff uniform. I went into the locker room, but sat and answered a few messages on my phone before changing. Whilst doing this, another member remarked to me about how cold the aircon was. I agreed. She was right, and got back to my phone. She made another few comments, which I gave one answer to. Then she asked if I would do anything. I said, "Probably not." She seemed really annoyed and stomped off. I thought it was a bit odd, but got changed into my gym gear. Another member suggested she probably thought I worked there, which seemed obvious now, but really hadn't occurred to me at that time. I looked for her later to explain, but didn't see her again. I'm now feeling a bit guilty imagining her complaining about me to the reception and then wondering who on earth is she talking about? Apparently, CNA employees work barefoot. So this happened recently as I, 23-year-old female, was shopping for new jeans with my partner. I was in a changing room trying on different sizes I brought with me, since as many women know, women's clothing sizes change from brand to brand and make zero sense, so finding pants that fits is always a guessing game. After changing pants several times, I got sick of trying to keep my socks on while the jeans I'm scrambling in and out of are often tight enough to pull them from my ankles anyway. So I gave up and I go barefoot for the rest of the Petaloon trial run. The floor was clean and so were my feet, so I didn't worry as much as I would usually. I step out from behind a curtain to get my partner's general opinion of the jeans, and before the curtains have even stopped swaying from me moving it, a woman from the cubicle next to me is stood there, uncomfortably close, interrupts me talking to my partner and looks me up and down in my all scruffy, not business appropriate, barefooted glory and barks at me that she doesn't like the material of an item she's holding and demands I go find a better alternative for her. First of all, wow, the entitlement. I'm so baffled as I've not been mistaken for employee anywhere for almost a decade. And I'm literally barefoot, so I don't immediately realize that she thinks I'm a staff member. It takes my partner quickly stepping in and telling her I don't work here in order for her to back off, without any kind of apology or acknowledgement in the situation, by the way. I'm still stood there baffled, trying to process what she barked at me before I realized I can go back to business as usual, and finally put my darn socks and shoes back on. It's quite funny thinking back on it, and my new pair of pants are very comfy. Alright, well, that's all the posts for today. Eventually, I would actually animate with characters, but for now, I'm on test 3 of a list of 32 animation tests. This one was an extra that I added in from the original list I had. I stumbled across a video on YouTube from AnimatorIslandTV. It's an animation exercise for beginners. In their video, they use a different software than what I'm using, but the animation test is all the same, and it was extremely helpful and an interesting way to teach beginners about different principles such as squash and stretch and timing. So if you liked the animation you saw in this video, feel free to check out Animator Island TV, where I originally got the idea from. Of course, I did a different drawing than what they did, but they can explain it much better than I did. Well, I didn't explain it at all. All I did was read Reddit stories. But you get the point. If you want to learn how to animate that, go check out that video. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye.